there's this balance to life. I've noticed it quite often. It's like sometimes when you have a real high moment, something doesn't not necessarily catastrophic, but definitely a little bit detrimental will happen that will try to drag you back down. Or if you're having a really low moment, if you're open minded enough and can see past whatever trauma is hitting, there are often many opportunities that will allow you to balance out again. Creates this interesting homeostasis. Sometimes it could be the same day, other times it could be multiple months apart. In the long run, though, it's kind of an interesting thing. Probably one of the most extreme cases that I can remember was in 2017. Began sitting at home with my fiance. We were starting to have some arguments and whatnot. Had been together about 3 years, and it was looking a little rough, disagreeing on some stuff. To kind of liven things up and kind of get back into the groove, we were deciding at the end of the year we were finally going to leave the country, and I just go get an Alaska tour, save up the money, and we just go somewhere, just make it happen. Don't worry about anything else and just put our money towards that. She always wanted to go to Singapore. Like I said, a little island there is like got a lot of stuff to do. I've heard pretty good things. And she was telling me a lot about it. It's like, okay, I'll go to Alaska, charge through it, we'll get a nice little stack of money, and then head to Singapore and have a little fun for whatever it may be. I'll look into how long we can stay, what we can do. We're both feeling pretty excited about this. I get back to the States, though. I have a message waiting for me. I guess my dad had just recently passed away at that point, just a day or two before. I'm over in the Bay Area at the time. Haven't gotten to work yet, so my finances are just really, really low. It would have taken almost everything I have to get to New York. Had to make a hard decision of, should I really go? I knew my younger sister was already designated to take care and execute everything in the will and oversee all the last accommodations and whatnot. Dad had told us that priorly years ago, just in case anything is going to happen, I want everything laid out, all the details, and so none of you guys have to worry about it. And she'll be there to execute it. She'll, take over the house and this and that. And we're all like, fine, I don't need it. So yeah, if that'll help her out, great. And she'll already be there, can take care of that. I would have liked to have gone, but like I said, it wasn't really feasible at the time. I just pursued looking for work to get my mind off of that for a while. Ended up getting on with a decent company and secured a position on a boat. Left in April, 4.5 month tour out on the Bering Sea. Come into port about every month and a half. I know, I mean about every week and a half. Offload. Even in port, a lot of times there's no Wi-Fi connection, and there's nothing for sale even in Dutch, not for the carrier I have on my phone. I finally changed like about a month and a half in. I was able to finally find a Wi-Fi connection. And I had a message there from Jenny, and she was like, we have a problem. Uh-oh. Yeah, I know I've been out of touch for a long time. I say, I hope this is nothing serious. She's like, well, I wasn't sure for the first couple of months, but I got tested and it turns out I'm pregnant. What? Really? After a couple of moments of shell shock, I was like, that's awesome. So we're going to have a family now. And she looks all relieved. I had no idea how I was going to take it, you know. I mean, really, who in their right mind? I know there's people that do. I just can't comprehend. People could say, "Oh, you're pregnant? How could you?" Or, you know, or "Oh, what are we gonna do now?" I know how stressed out that would be on her, and how apprehensive she was about not knowing how I would respond. And yeah, I'm over 40 at this point, so while a family has not been something I've been planning on, it's late enough in life that if I'm going to do it, it's actually about the right time. I wouldn't want to get too much into it over 50. I mean, then it'd be like 70 before I could kick the kid out of the house, right? Yeah. But no, it's good. So okay. So we tried to do the math and figure it out. As Walls asked like what they said during the tests, estimating somewhere around maybe end of September for due date. I'm like, okay. I know I get off of the boat at around hopefully end of August, early September at latest. So I get to try to schedule my flight over to the Philippines. Trying to aim if end of September is going to be due date, I'm like, well, I'll try to get there like 2 or 3 weeks early and get the visa so I can be there for 2 months. Really want this to work. Actually, I think it was end of October was the due date. When I think about it, or a little after that. So yeah, I guess it was first week of October. I fly over. Done with work, finally relieved about that, and all excited about going home and starting this new adventure. Oh boy, yeah. So Jenny and I get together after a long time and reunite and start to plan out how this is all going to work. She's feeling good so far. Everything looks like it's going to be a natural birth, and she's been real worried the whole time. I don't know the exact reality of it. There's so much superstitions over there. It's hard to tell sometimes what's real and what people just believe is real. But it seems to be, I don't know if it's like the superstitions, the way the healthcare system works, or whether there's an actual physiological disposition towards this. But C-sections tend to be way more prolific over there. It's something that does happen a lot. I began to wonder like whether it's something that's absolutely essential or whether the doctors are just saying, oh, you have to get one as a way to like, get more money or something else. I've seen stuff like that sometimes in other countries. The cultural differences make it really hard for me to figure it out. We're like, okay, everything looks normal, and everybody, all the doctors that have checked it out have been like, yeah, no problem, everything's good. About 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks after I get there, we get another ultrasound just to double check. She just wants to. It's like, okay, sure, we can go in. They're pretty quick. She gets checked out, and they're like, oh yeah, and everything looks good. Probably be another 2 weeks, they guess. So we get home, and the next day, she just like in the middle of the day comes out of the bathroom and is like, I'm leaking. What do you mean you're leaking? What's going on? There's this fluid coming out. It's clear, but there's a lot of it. It sounds to me like your water broke. You might want to call your aunt. She's had a couple kids, so she'd know what's going on. I don't know. I mean, you could wait a couple minutes if you want and see if it stops. Uh, okay. It's still coming out. Yeah, call your aunt. Do you feel any pains at all? Or no, nothing hurts. It's just all this fluid coming out. Still, give her a call. Her uncle is also the ambulance driver. So as well as her aunt having some information about this, hopefully, her uncle is the one that's going to drive us to the hospital. I don't have a car or anything, and really didn't feel like bouncing around on a trike, in an open air rig trying to get to the hospital at this point. Do what you got to do, but yeah. So yeah, they rush over and we go to the public hospital, which, as with anything else in the Philippines, requires a lot of waiting. So after a couple hours with paperwork and waiting and all this stuff, finally get a nurse check out, and yeah, sure enough, that's what they figure. It was just a sac broke, and unfortunately, since there's no pain and everything else, it's at this point looking like the inevitable C-section after all. That being, a couple of weeks ahead of the actual due date, it's like, well, shit. And then the good news of, we don't have a doctor here, so you're going to have to go to a different hospital to get delivered. We can't do the operation. Awesome. It's an hour and a half to the next hospital. After all that waiting. So we pile into the ambulance and off we go. About halfway there, we just pull over on the side of the road and, Jenny, what's going on here? Shouldn't we be in a rush to get to the hospital? We saw a private hospital on the way, so my uncle's going to go see what they charge. We're in the middle of an emergency here. Is this the best time to be going shopping for bargains? I mean, when the amniotic fluid leaves the sac, I mean, the cushion protecting your infant is gone, and that's what kind of holds away, keeps from infection and all this stuff. And the longer he's in there without it, the more susceptible he's going to be to stuff, and more likely something's going to happen. So yeah, I'm starting to get kind of stressed out. I'm like, these cultural differences are starting to knock on me at this point, and it's like, whoa, I don't like this. But it turns out the private hospital was actually a little cheaper, and they're generally faster and more efficient than public ones anyway. So fine, we get a private room. I start moving stuff up. Over there, you bring everything with you. We had like this Rubbermaid tub we had made up over the past couple weeks. I mean, you bring your own gauze, pillow sheets, and friggin' everything. Hospital can't overcharge you if you bring it all with you, right? So over there, they just let you bring it all in. Jenny shortly goes off to surgery, and I guess her family is somewhere around. Everybody is just like, oh, stay here. And they wouldn't even let me go into to follow them, because I wouldn't have been allowed in the surgery anyway. I don't speak enough Tagalog to get definitive answer about what's going on, and Jenny has obviously got other things on her mind than translating for me at this point. So stress level goes way up. I mean, it's a few hours later before, her family comes in and conveys, we need money for ice for the surgery. Holy shit. I'm thinking, man, if they don't have ice in the surgery, what else don't they have? This is freaking hospital, right? Like, oh, yeah, this really calmed me down. A couple hours after that, finally, they bring me and I get to talk to one of the nurses that actually does somewhat speak English. And she was able to kind of explain to me what's going on. Everything was doing all right. You know, I guess Jenny's family, too, was equally as stressed out about just seeing me stressed out and not being able to really communicate. So that was another part of the reason we were having that conversation. I know I kind of apologized for that. I was maybe starting to snap at people at that point almost anyway, because it was just the stress level was getting so freaking high. I mean, my head is just like, I'd never been through this before. I wrote a ZMT like over accumulated year and a half, partially in New York and again in Maryland. But it was, you do that. I mean, I've been on 2 pregnancy calls the whole time. I never actually delivered. One got delivered, but the EMT that was with me had never done it either, so I let her do it. You get to the hospital though, and you drop them off, and it goes to the ER or wherever else, and the patient and the kid are out of your hands. This is going through the process, the whole process, and it's your kid is a totally different ball game. So this is completely new to me. The cultural differences, everything else, amplifying, as well as it becoming a surgical thing and unnatural birth to begin with. I'm obviously very worried about both of them. So I was glad to hear everything went well. Everything is okay. Finally got to see Jenny. And you brought little Christian out, at 6.5 pounds or something. It's pretty small. So, we got to play around for like an hour, maybe half hour, and then they take him away. They were kind of showing me like how to assist with breastfeeding and everything else, because after the C-section, she's pretty well out of it. And I end up going back to the room, and within like an hour or so, she comes in. They bring her in, put her in the bed. Christian wouldn't be delivered to the room for another 24 hours. They wanted to keep him in isolation, worried about infection and other such. So that gave me a chance to start getting adjusted to, okay, what do I got to do for Jenny? Do I got to help feed her, help get her to a bathroom, or do whatever else? Any surgery is kind of major. Acclimate to that, and then he comes in, and now I got 2 people to take care of. It's nice to have the nurses right outside if I need them. Plus, they come check up a couple times a day, of course, and I got a button and a call thing if I really need it. This is a weird, holistic hospital or something. It's no bottle feeding at all. Nothing. Everything is breastfeeding only. So for 2 days straight, we're trying everything we can think of, to try to get milk started and something else, and it's not happening. So we're I don't know, it's not getting any fluid, any food. The nurses don't seem worried about it when they talk to them about it, and so we're starting to get kind of stressed. Neither of us is getting much sleep anyway. She's getting a little more than me. I try to let her get everything she can to recover. Going out for food and pharmacy. It's a lot cheaper outside of the hospital. But I found a couple places really close by that I can get all that. And the person at the pharmacy had been really helpful. Spoke enough English to help, convey where to get some of the good Lugao and some of the other stuff. But yeah, this lack of oh no formula, no anything else. It's we're we're not liking this. The pharmacist was familiar with this, and after a couple of days was able to, it had the idea, just give me a nondescript package, just take it out of the old one, and that way I can kind of smuggle it in. And not get seen. They don't really check you coming or going anyway. Of course, they'd be kind of militant if they did, but yeah, I don't know what's going on, so I'm just like, okay, fine. Yeah, Christian like sucks down whatever he can. He's just, I mean, he was so small to begin with, and then they're like not even worried that we can't even get any breast milk going. It just was freaking us out so much. We're just, no matter what it takes, we're gonna make this happen. You know, get him something. By about the third day, her milk finally starts to come in. We were doing like lots of moringa and other stuff, just to, whatever we could think of, like other stuff from the pharmacy to stimulate, the breast milk production. It's so happy when it finally starts to come. She can't like get up and walk around on her own easily yet, sort of, but I mean, with the wound is, we're worried about it opening up again if stress it. So I still got to assist with all of that and doing a lot of the carrying of him, like when she's sleeping or even not, just walking around, get him to go to sleep. They were feeding him. And day 4 is time to go home. Her uncle comes up with the ambulance and we get to all pile in. Driving home. Much slower than we came up, trying to ease off on the bumps and whatnot. Well, we get to the house. So now I got the added thing of not just taking care of her and Christian, also, the cleaning, the laundry, the cooking, etc., etc. Her aunt comes over to help out every now and then. It's pretty much, I got most of it. It's fine. It helps keep my mind off of worrying about all this stuff that's going on right in front of me here. And sometimes with too much free time, your mind is like, whoa. Yeah, you get stressed out. The more you just do stuff, just do shit, it's, feel better. So it was definitely quite a learning experience going through this whole process. And the cultural stuff made it probably a lot more interesting than it would have over here, but that's okay. You can see the balance, though. My dad passed away, which brought me to a low, but my son was born, that brought me to a high. While they don't directly cancel each other out, it just helps even out the emotional states when you let it. It was pretty dramatic here. Life is definitely interesting.